Welcome to Silent Secrets. In today's story, I want to share something deeply personal. Not because it's easy to tell, but because sometimes the truths that hurt the most are the ones that set us free. Scene 1. The mirror on a Thursday morning. Have you ever looked at your own reflection and wondered when your life stopped feeling like yours? That thought hit me one ordinary Thursday morning. I remember the sunlight slipping through the blinds, landing on my face just enough to highlight the exhaustion hiding behind my eyes. I stared into the mirror. Same woman, same tired smile. But something about her felt like a stranger. Her eyes looked familiar but hollow, as if the person inside had packed up and left long ago. From the outside, everything looked fine. Stable marriage. 2 healthy kids. A decent home tucked away in the quiet suburbs of Seattle. The kind of life that looks good in pictures, but inside, something was slowly dissolving. A quiet erosion no one else could see. My name is Rachel Porter, and once upon a time I thought I had everything figured out. I believed in structure, in doing the right things, following the right rules, saying yes when I was supposed to. I thought if I just kept showing up, everything would fall neatly into place. It didn't. Scene 2. The good man in the empty house. Ethan, my husband, was a good man. The kind of man who fixed things before they broke. Dependable, steady, predictable. He loved systems, schedules, and paying the bills before they were even due. And once, I loved that about him. But love has a way of changing shape when time wears it down. After 12 years of marriage, what we had wasn't a flame. It was a soft, quiet ember, barely alive, burning out of habit. We didn't argue much. We didn't talk much either. We simply existed, orbiting around each other like 2 planets caught in a gravitational pull that neither of us could escape. It wasn't unhappiness that haunted me. It was emptiness. That subtle, suffocating silence that lives between 2 people who once knew how to reach for each other, but forgot how somewhere along the way. Some nights, I would lie beside him, eyes wide open in the dark, listening to the rhythm of his breathing, and I'd wonder, does he feel it too? That quiet ache of being together, and still completely alone? I never asked. Maybe I was afraid of the answer. Scene 3. The stranger named Lucas. Then one day, someone new walked into my office. Lucas Grant, freelance designer. Sharp mind, easy smile. The kind of man who seemed to carry warmth in the way he moved, spoke, listened. When he joined our marketing team, I didn't think much of it. Just another name, another project, another polite handshake. But something about him felt awake. He had this unhurried confidence, like he'd made peace with time itself. And when he laughed, that low, natural kind of laugh that feels unforced, people listened. His eyes were blue-gray, the kind of eyes that didn't just look at you but somehow into you. At first, it was nothing. Just casual conversations. Professional interactions. But deep down, I felt something stirring, a faint hum of curiosity I hadn't felt in years. One afternoon, after a long meeting, he glanced at me and said, "You always hold everything together, don't you?" It was such a simple question, but it hit me harder than it should have, because no one had ever really seen what it cost me to keep everything together, and that was how it began. The smallest spark in a life I thought had gone cold. Scene 4. The weight of being. Scene. Lucas didn't try to impress me. He didn't flirt. He didn't push. He just noticed things. The kind of things most people overlook. He asked about my favorite songs, not the ones everyone liked, but the ones that made me cry quietly on long drives home. He asked about books I'd once loved, about the places I dreamed of going before life became a checklist. For the first time in years, I felt like someone was listening, not to what I was saying, but to who I was. At first, I tried to resist it. I told myself it was just a friendship, a harmless conversation between colleagues. But deep down, I knew what was happening, because when attention becomes the oxygen you've been starved of, even a small breath can feel like a rescue. Every time we spoke, something in me softened. He had this way of listening that made silence feel comfortable. Ethan, meanwhile, had grown quieter. His focus was elsewhere, on his job, on his phone, on responsibilities. Our exchanges had become practical. Did you pick up milk? What time's the PTA meeting? The water heater's leaking again. No tenderness, no spark. Just maintenance. We were two people managing a life, not living one. Scene 5. The conversation that changed everything one evening. After the kids were asleep, I decided to reach across the space between us. You ever feel like we're just existing? I asked. Ethan looked up from his laptop, confused. What do you mean? I hesitated. I don't know. I just feel tired, he smiled softly. We're all tired, Rach. It's just life. Then he kissed my forehead and went back to his screen. That was it. No curiosity. No follow-up. Just the easy dismissal of a man who didn't see the slow unraveling right in front of him. That night, I realized something heartbreaking. You can be deeply loved and still feel invisible. Scene 6. A cup of coffee and a storm brewing. The next morning, Lucas stopped by my desk holding a cup of coffee. You look like you could use this, he said with a quiet grin. I wanted to tell him don't be kind, because kindness, when you're starving for it, feels like temptation. But I just smiled back. You have no idea, I said. It wasn't flirtation, not yet. It was recognition. Two tired souls quietly admitting that they were both carrying more than anyone knew. After that, everything shifted. Slowly, quietly, dangerously. I started noticing the clock more often, counting down to the next meeting, the next chance to talk, the next small escape from the gray fog of my routine. I told myself it was harmless. Everyone needs connection. Everyone wants to be seen. But I already knew the truth. Once you start needing someone else to feel alive, you're already walking away from yourself. Scene 7. Lines. That blur, it started small, the kind of small that hides behind good intentions. A shared joke during a long meeting. A late-night text about work that drifted into something personal. A moment of laughter that lingered longer than it should have. Each moment felt innocent in isolation, but together, they started weaving a thread I could no longer ignore. Lucas had this way of making the ordinary feel charged. When he looked at me, I felt seen, not as a wife or mother or colleague, but as a woman, and that was dangerous. One late evening, we stayed back finalizing a presentation. The office was empty. The air conditioner hummed quietly. He leaned close, pointing something out on my laptop. I could feel his breath near my neck. My pulse quickened. For a split second, time stopped. He stepped back, clearing his throat. Sorry, he said softly. It's okay, I whispered, though my voice betrayed me. That's the moment I realized how fragile control can be when you've been lonely too long. Scene 8. The space between two lives. After that night, everything changed, even the silences. We didn't speak about what happened. We didn't have to. The air between us was charged with everything unspoken. I began dressing with more intention. Subtle details, small touches, and telling myself it was for me, but deep down, I knew who I wanted to notice. Ethan did notice, but not in the way I wanted. You've been distracted lately, he said one evening at dinner. Something going on at work? I smiled too quickly. Just a big project. He nodded, trusting, unaware, and that blind trust cut deeper than anger ever could. Scene 9. The rain that broke the silence. A week later, after another long day, Lucas offered me a ride home. The rain was relentless, soft but steady, the kind that makes the world blur behind glass. We talked about everything and nothing, about work, about life, about how strange it is to wake up one day and not recognize your own reflection. When he parked in front of my house, I didn't move to open the door. The car was filled with that heavy, unspoken quiet, the kind that feels like a choice. You don't have to keep pretending you're okay. he said finally. Voice barely above a whisper. Something in me cracked. I wanted to say I'm fine, but the truth caught in my throat. I turned to him, and in that small, human moment, I crossed a line I could never uncross. The kiss wasn't wild or dramatic. It was quiet, painful, real. And when it ended, I knew everything was about to change. Scene 10. The price of the moment. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay beside Ethan, staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of my choices pressing down like a storm cloud. Guilt is strange. It's both sharp and dull. It cuts deep, but lingers quietly. And yet, beneath that guilt, I felt something I hadn't in years. Alive. Days turned into weeks. We never spoke about the kiss again, but every glance, every silence carried its ghost, until the day Ethan found the messages. I'd left my phone charging in the kitchen. He picked it up to check the time, and that was all it. He scrolled, he read, he froze. When I walked in, I saw it on his face. Shock first, then confusion, then something far worse. Understanding. Rachel, he whispered, what is this? There was no hiding, no excuse. The truth was already there, glowing on the screen between us. I'm sorry, I said, my voice breaking. Was it him? He asked. I nodded. He didn't yell, didn't curse, didn't rage. He just went quiet, and that silence was the loudest sound I'd ever heard. Finally, he asked, why? And I had no answer that would make sense. Because how do you explain that you didn't want to destroy something? You just wanted to feel alive again. Scene 11. The collapse. Ethan moved out a week later. No fights, no threats, just a man carrying a suitcase and a silence too. Heavy to lift. The house felt cavernous without him. Every corner echoed with what we'd lost. The kids adapted quicker than I did. Children have a way of accepting change as truth. I, on the other hand, woke up every morning with the ache of what I'd broken. Lucas tried reaching out. Texts, emails, apologies written in between the lines. But I couldn't face him. Whatever we'd had wasn't love. It was escape. And now, it felt suffocating. Eventually, the messages stopped. And just like that, the chapter closed. Quietly. Without ceremony. Scene 12, the mirror. Again, months passed. I started therapy. At first, I went through the motions, answering questions mechanically, sitting in silence that felt too honest. But over time, I began peeling back layers I didn't even know existed. One day, my therapist asked, when did you stop showing up for yourself? The question hit me harder than I expected. Maybe it was the day I stopped writing, or the day I convinced myself that being a good wife and mother meant erasing every part of me that wanted something more. Maybe it was every quiet night I chose peace over honesty. Didn't stop loving Ethan, I just stopped loving myself. And when you disappear from your own life long enough, eventually you start reaching for anything that reminds you you're still here. Scene 13. Learning to live again. It's been nearly a year since everything fell apart. Ethan and I talk now. Cautiously. Kindly. We meet for family dinners once a week. There are still cracks between us, but there's also respect. A strange kind of peace that comes from accepting the truth instead of hiding from it. Sometimes, when he looks at me across the table, I catch a glimpse of the man I married, the laughter, the warmth, the easy comfort. But I don't mistake it for a promise. Some things can be mended, but not everything returns to what it was. I live slower now. I take walks without rushing somewhere. I read again. I write. Even when it hurts. And I've learned that infidelity isn't always about desire. Sometimes it's about absence. The absence of attention, of emotional safety, of self-recognition. You don't wake up one morning and decide to destroy your life. It happens. Quietly, one unmet need at a time. Scene 14. The lesson hidden in the silence people think betrayal is an event, a single moment that breaks trust. But really, it's a process. It begins long before the moment itself, in the silence, the neglect, the forgetting. Looking back, I don't justify what I did. I don't excuse it. But I understand it now. I understand that love cannot survive on routine alone. That connection needs to be fed, not assumed. That being good at life means nothing if you lose sight of who you are inside it. Scene 15. The final reflection. Sometimes, late at night, I still wonder if Ethan will ever truly forgive me. Or if I'll ever fully forgive myself, but maybe. Forgiveness isn't a finish line. Maybe it's just the decision to keep walking, to keep rebuilding even when you're still haunted by the ruins. Trying something new didn't give me freedom. It gave me truth. And truth, I've learned, is both the heaviest burden and the lightest thing to finally carry. This was Rachel's story, but it's also a reminder for anyone listening. Don't wait until you disappear from your own life to realize you deserve to be seen, heard, and valued. Sometimes the most dangerous silence isn't between two people. It's the one you build inside yourself. Thank you for watching Silent Secrets. Until next time, take care of your heart, and don't forget who you are.